Shomati is no stranger to most of us. Way back when I was doing my PhD at the University of Toronto, I got to know of Shomati's works. The book that really fascinated me, of course, was the book Discussions at the Monk Center, which is the hub of cultural exchanges at the University of Toronto. Really was a buzz. So when I came back to India after 38 years away with Harish, who's a historian, we met in person thanks to the curator and the art aficionado, Mr. Shoma A Chatterji, who is very kindly here with us today. So, supported by a scintillating panel of experts on cinema and film, and moderated by a most competent moderator, Tathagato, who is venerated as a stalwart in the performing arts, we are all looking much forward to witnessing how the very intriguing title, Amitabh Bachchan as the Other, will be illumined this evening by our panelists, the writer and the audience, you of course. The founder of phenomenology, Edmund Husserl, identified the other as one of the conceptual bases of intersubjectivity, of the relations among people. Very simply said, other is a term used to define another person or another aspect of yourself or people as separate from oneself. Therefore, the condition of otherness is a person's non-conformity to and with social norms of society. Therefore, otherness is the condition of disenfranchisement, political exclusion, effected either by the state or by the social institutions, the professions, invested with a corresponding socio-political power. The imposition of otherness alienates the person labeled as the other from the center of society and places him or her at the margins for being the other. To me, as a post-colonial scholar, when I saw Shomati's title of the book, The Other, it was quite intriguing and fascinating. The word was made globally viral long before we have made it fashionable as post-colonialists. But that great historian and theorist, Edward Said, who in his seminal book, Orientalism, explained how the other is not what I am or we are. In terms of race, how the Oriental might be described as everything the Occidental or the white race is not. The alluring feminist Simone de Beauvoir used the concept in her book, The Second Sex, as I am sure my idol and ideal in this room, Professor Sanjukta Dasgupta, will agree. She propagated the idea in her book, The Second Sex, how women would always be the other to the man or the main subject, the male. So that's my introduction and titillation to us, the audience, about what the most mysterious title really means. There we have Tathagato, who will be taking us through the motions of the wonderful 15 clips of Amitabh's films to give us an indication how the once superhero, whose ego was always known to be, as the British would say, as big as a London bus, it came down and became the image of a real man, a change from the angry young man. A trajectory of the evening, just to help us see how we are going to progress. Opening the discussion with a few key comments, I would assume, by the author, Dr. Shoma A Chatterji, addressed by the keynote speaker, followed by the panel discussion by our eminent scholars and filmmakers, moderated by the charming Amitabh Bachchan, followed by Q&A from the floor, where we look much forward to a vivacious and interactive session. Now to come to the moderator, who I think it would be nice to have a background about, very well known. Amitabh Bachchan is the founder of Theatrician, a Wikipedia recognized theatre production house, acknowledged by the BBC as one of the most prolific youth theatre companies. The production house has produced nearly 200 plays, enjoyed more than 2,000 shows across the country. In 2008, Amitabh was selected to represent India in a theatre science project in the United Kingdom, and in 2014, he represented the country in South Asian theatre in a festival in Ohio, USA. He's conducted theatre workshops in schools, colleges, corporates across the country, including the National School of Drama and the FTII. As he is known to his friends and in the theatre fraternity, he is certified by the Royal Shakespeare Company. The Best Actor Award and Best Script Award during the 2017 Kalakrantri Theatre Awards are two of the more notable recognitions he's received. He's directed several musicals, including his adaptation of R.K. Narayan's The Malgudi Days. I'd love to see that. Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. So without further ado, I hand you into the very capable hands of Amitabh Bachchan.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I can't think of anyone else other than you who could articulate the other in the manner that you did. Capable hands, I'm not too sure, but to be charming enough is going to be quite a responsibility to shoulder. And I have this responsibility of introducing a panel that doesn't need any introduction. But who are we here talking about? What are we talking about? How do we demystify the other? Will come from the creator of Amitabh Bachchan as the other. Before that, just a bit of trivia. Anyone knows that in Filmfare Awards, which actor received the Best Actor Award after receiving Lifetime Achievement Award? It has happened only once.
Mr. Bachchan.
I don't think it will ever happen again.
Amitabh Bachchan himself.
Yes, great.
He got it for Pa and several other films.
Absolutely. Thank you. The floral bouquets and the book launch, yes, to follow. Do we know his illustrious father?
Harivansh Rai Bachchan.
Thank you. Just one voice from the audience. I thought all of us will be singing in chorus about this. What I'm trying to get at is that we all are aware about so much about this man. But how well do we know the other Amitabh Bachchan? That is why we are gathered here this evening. And the best way to start this evening is with gifting bouquet to the panel here. And we have the bouquets here, Shomali?
What we usually do is to give the bouquets later so that you can take them home, but that's fine. Anju, will you come and give me a hand from the book club? Thank you. Harish, also from the book club. You've caught us a bit off guard because we do things a little differently. Thank you anyway to Shomali.
But then you have the flexibility, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, but you can have it later on.
Ma'am,
No,
it's
it's okay.
ma'am,
It's
ma'am,
already.
it's cited.
It's already.
National Award-winning author, film critic, Shomali. Dr. Piyush Roy, founder, Dean of School of Film, Media and Cultural Arts, RV University, Bangalore. Author, filmmaker, and an ex-editor of Stardust.
Ma'am, it's side word, ma'am. Camera ko side word. Madam.
Ranjan Ghosh, eminent and award-winning filmmaker, with whom I have a bone of contention, already discussed. Dr. Sanjukta Dashgupta, renowned poet, translator, and author, ex-dean of Humanities, Calcutta University. I hope I got that right.
They call it arts.
Thank you for the correction. We have with us Ms. Shubha Dashmurthy, award-winning documentary filmmaker and teacher. Bobby, yes. Bobby Chakraborty, noted film actor and a very dear friend. Bobby and I, we go back a long way. We have many tears that we have shared, which actually translated into laughter later, but we'll be discussing that later, if the evening allows. I think the person who should set the ball rolling is none other than Shomali herself. And Shomali, how would you like us to first present the book? And do we show the book to the audience first? Or
Do you have copies of them?
I have a copy which I bought for myself,
You can
which I
sketch it
request
somehow.
which I request you to please sign later. But yes.
I don't know whether the parcel gift pack books should be given now.
I think we should do the panel, Shomali.
Okay.
Just some
Yes.
people are waiting.
We are all waiting to hear from us about what we feel about the other Amitabh Bachchan.
I thought I'd be the last one to speak, but anyway, he has turned the tables the other way round. Let me see what happens.
Keep this up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't very much big crowd. Many of the friends which I invited did not turn up, and many have also turned up, so that's a good thing. But today it happens to be some annual day of the Bengal Club, so their members who would have come otherwise are now busy at the ICCR. They are having some annual function there. So that is why you see that the crowd is quite thin. But I did not think it would be so thin because Bachchan is Bachchan after all. And the name itself should have attracted a bigger crowd. So anyway, maybe he's not very popular with the classy elite society. He is more popular with the other, as my book says. Now, why did I write the book at all? I've written on Suchitra Sen, I've written on Aparna Sen, I've written on Rituparna Ghosh, then I've written on Mrinal Sen, Ritik Khatak. Should I write 2 books? Why suddenly Amitabh Bachchan? Everybody asks me this question. Now, it's not a biography at all. I don't believe in writing a biography because I cannot believe in the authenticity of the biography. What is the guarantee that what I'm writing is the truth or not? Because I'm not going to have a sitting session with Amitabh Bachchan and ask him questions and all that. And more or less, we know what his biography is, backwards to now. So I don't believe in biographies. So when my publisher in Delhi with the Star, they said, yes, you can do a book on Amitabh Bachchan. The next thing was that I had some kind of a brain paralysis because I didn't know what to write. Okay, bol diya to bol diya, likhbota ki. So I was in 2 minds. I got all the books of Amitabh Bachchan, as many as I could land, and I found one of them was very good, written by, I think, Shushmita Dasgupta, who did a PhD on Amitabh Bachchan, the first one to do her PhD in Amitabh Bachchan. There must have been many more later on. And she gave me her 2 books. The first one was the PhD thesis, and the other one was, which did not go into the thesis. I mean, it became too big. And she said that Amitabh Bachchan invited her for 7 days as a house guest because he was very pleased. This was some years ago, not very long ago, some years ago. So he was very pleased, and he said, please, he sent a air ticket to her, and she went there for 7 days. So she came to my house and she shared her feelings with us. Then I said, if she has written, and she wrote a very good, her book is really very good because it traces the growth of Amitabh Bachchan against the political turbulence that was happening right from the emergency till now. I mean, how it changed, you know, and what place did he occupy sociologically and politically within that scheme, within that narrative. That is what she wrote, and it was very good, and I couldn't, of course, go on writing that. Then suddenly it occurred to me that it is limiting Amitabh Bachchan's talents as an actor, who has lasted for 55 years, and 50 years, I think it's going to be 50 years now, to last for such a long time only with the angry young man tag attached to him. Because you can't remain an angry young man for 50 years and also be the top star. So much in demand, a legend. You can call him a legend, you can call him an institution, you can call him anything. So I said, why do you call him an angry young man? Even I identify him as the angry young man. I did identify him as the angry young man. But there are other facets. Even within the angry young man image, he comes out in the other. For example, in Anand, he is very angry. He's a doctor. He's angry with being a doctor because he's seeing the corruption all around in the medical fraternity, which we are seeing today. But his anger doesn't come out that way. His anger comes out only when his close friend dies, and his entire philosophy towards life changes when he sees that the death is turned into a game by this young man called Anand. Whereas he is very angry with himself for being a doctor, for being in the corrupt profession, but he is not corrupt. So there is this the angle to the angry young man. For example, I love the film Abhiman, in which he is there with Jaya Bachchan. You can interpret it as a musical, you can interpret it as a romance, you can interpret it as a family drama. It lends itself to several genres. But what I did not like about the film is that Hrishikesh Mukherjee lost the courage to continue the story with the husband being very insecure and inferior to a more talented wife. He changed the direction of the story after the interval somewhere else. So that argument did not stand, where the husband feels inferior when the wife is more talented. At that time it would have made a great difference to the entire cinema history of Hindi cinema. But I have interpreted it that way. Why he's the other in Abhiman? Because he's a very, very successful singer, but when the wife enters into the picture, he becomes very frustrated, very, very frustrated. He feels he is nobody. How can this lady from the village can claim so much of audience appreciation when he cannot claim any audience appreciation at all? So these are the othernesses that I tried to discover in 15 films where he is already an angry young man. So I originally had chosen 25 films, but I felt I would not be able to do justice to 25 films. Already the book is almost 400 pages, so I cut it down to 25. And of course, my main idea of writing comes from watching the films again and again and again, and then also there are so many mistakes. Alright, when I read it back, I find that there are so many factual mistakes. But in some cases I have overlooked the factual errors because that was not the aim of the book. The aim of the book is to show Amitabh Bachchan as the other. Now what do you mean by the other? He is the other within himself because he belongs to one of the most aristocratic intellectual families in India. He is the only actor, I think, in the world who had a father who was not only a very highly acknowledged poet, but he happens to be the second, I think, or the first PhD from the University of Oxford or the University of Cambridge, I don't remember, in English literature. He wrote in Hindi later on, but he was a PhD in English literature from the University of Cambridge, if I remember right. And within that family, can you imagine that his son becomes a masala movie hero, and that also for so many years. And he has faced failure twice, and he rose like phoenix from above his ashes, from his own ashes. So I wanted to focus on that. I don't know whether the readers will like it or not like it. I tried to get Mr. Bachchan's, what do you say, what do you call it, substantiation or proof or something. So he said, I wanted a 5-minute video with him holding the book and talking something about the book. That is what my promoters, my sponsors requested. So he said, I can't give you the 5-minute video clip because legal complications will be there, but I will give you a letter. And he gave a lovely letter. It's a very small letter, but he has signed it, and the address is also, he has written it in his hand, in his letterhead, official letterhead. So that made my day, and I'm very happy. Now, did I achieve anything by this? I don't know. That is for the readers to decide. I have just written what I felt I should write, and there's a lot of research. I'm a very research-centric person. So there's a lot of academic research also involved, but since I'm a journalist, I keep my language away from theory as much as possible. There is theory in this book also, and I'm afraid that the panel here, everybody knows me very well. So I don't know, the opinion of me will be colored by the friendship that we have enjoyed for all these years or not, because everybody I know very well, right from Bobby, who is young enough to be my son, to Shomjukta, who has been a friend for me for 20 years, then Shom Datta, Pijush also I know for a very long time, though we haven't met very much, and Ranjan, I know him since he became a director, before he became a director. Shubha, of course, I know for a very long time, and they are personally also my friends, so it's a very tough job for them to be very objective about me. They'll say all nice things about me, I know about that, but you can dilute it, you can put it through a strainer and take in what you think is right and what you think is exaggerated. Thank you very much, thank you for coming, and thank you very much Tathagato and Bobby for pitching in, and thank you all my very, very nice friends here. Most of them are very much more academically brilliant than I am, but I bow down to them, but they are also my friends, and that is the basic truth. They are very good friends. Their opinion of me is likely to be biased, but that does not matter, it happens. Who is a human being without any bias? Thank you very much.
It's actually why we needed to change the order a bit from what you were expecting. We needed to first know from you what inspired you to talk about the other. Before I request our keynote speaker to take the evening forward, I'll just like to tell us that I think it would be a good idea if we make this with your permission, with all of you with your permission, if we make this an interactive session as well. So once you get to hear from any of our speakers, any of the comments that they have to share about the book, about their experience of the other, and if you wish to participate in the conversation, don't worry, I'm keeping a track of time. That's what my responsibility is also this evening. But let us make this an interactive session. Shoma did mention about a very thinned down size of the audience. I think that actually works for our better, discussing the other. So I'll request Dr. Piyush Roy to share his views, being the keynote speaker. But before that, I think there are some interesting clips that you have in mind, which is why Bobby was telling me not to sit on the edge, because like that place would be blocked. If that is ready, then do you think that we can view that?
A little later.
A little later, sure. Dr. Piyush Roy, please. What I'm quite keen on knowing from you is that, being the Dean of School of Film, Media and Cultural Arts, Creative Arts, sorry. You can sit there also, like it will be a good, relaxed conversation. Oh, great. What I'd like to know from you, of course, we would all like to know your views, what you'd like to share with us. But just a personal request, if you can tell us what you think makes Amitabh Bachchan relevant even today. And please share your views and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. That's already part of my keynote, so
Good, awesome.
good you prompted there. And am I audible?
Yes.
So I am wearing two hats. I was editor of Stardust. I am still a writing journalist, and of course I have read Shomaji's books, including this book. So and I will tackle your question also as part of my address. So to start with, it's a pleasure and honor to deliver the keynote address at the launch of the book Amitabh Bachchan as the Other by Shoma A Chatterji, a critique and a connoisseur of cinema and life for life. And while I'm sure this isn't the last book from our insightful and extremely necessary oeuvre of writings on cinema for all, it's but naturally fitting that a title in her own right and of similar age as a subject, as he very affectionately mentions about them both being in their 80s, still active, still inspiring, focuses unarguably at one of the greatest living legends of Indian and world cinema, Amitabh Bachchan. This is not a fanboy statement. Though I have been a fan of both Shomaji's writing, which I first encountered in the hallways of the University of Edinburgh Library during my doctoral research, and of Amitabh Bachchan, who, through my initiating years into film watching, was encountered on the big screen only and always. I wasn't born when Janjeer happened. The reigning stars, when I could somewhat appreciate my cinema, were Anil Kapoor, Govinda, Madhuri Dixit, Shah Rukh Khan. Some of them have faded or retired. But Amitabh Bachchan still continues to amaze us. Of course, as one's tastes in cinema mature, you cannot escape the influential art and craft of the likes of Amitabh Bachchan, Nasiruddin Shah, Sanjeev Kumar, Balraj Sahni, Dilip Kumar, Uttam Kumar, Raj Kapoor, actors whose contribution to cinema remains timeless. But can you think of anywhere else in world cinema of an actor who at 80 still gets author-backed lead and supporting parts to play, and to work with whom is the aspiration of every new and young filmmaker entering Bollywood, including the Gen Z, debuting into filmmaking today 5+ decades since his acting debut. That's not just a miracle or a blessing. It requires tremendous hard work, constant re-evaluation and repeat breaking of that ego glass. Occasional doubters and moments in a superstar's life are mere fateful interventions, perhaps by the real star up there, to just ascertain his or her presence when a mortal threatens to match their fate. My own experience with Mr. Bachchan has been as a star guest, presenter and winner at the Stardust Awards, as an interviewee for the cover story of my second issue as editor of Stardust in July 2011, and of course as a member of the film journalist fraternity at the many promotional press conferences in Mumbai around his every release. Two things have always stand out. His punctuality, which is legendary, and a rarity in the world of stars, his ability to evolve creatively and reimagine equations, personal and professional, with audiences, ideologies and the powers that be with changing times. Just to give an example, Stardust banned Amitabh Bachchan during the days of the emergency. They refused to cover him at all. And this was precisely and straight from the horse's mouth, Mr. Nari Hira, the founder editor of Stardust. And he said that during the emergency, the INB minister, Mr. Shukla, told them that you have to do this and that and don't write this and that about Mr. Bachchan. And they said, ठीक है, अगर आपको इतना सारे restrictions हैं, उनको लिखेंगे ही नहीं. And in the peak years of Mr. Bachchan, for about 10 years, Stardust, the #1 film magazine in the world, didn't feature him at all. Stardust survived. And when Amitabh Bachchan came for his second coming into cinema after failure in politics, he went to Nari Hira and said that I never had asked for all these things to be done. It was done by the overzealous promoters from the government. So, and then they came back, and then after that Mr. Bachchan has been attending Stardust events and all that. So that's amazing, that ability to come and say that, do feature me. So the legacy of any star, And Shoma yesterday said, you do yellow journalism. So it's the legacy of any star. And I totally agree with you, Somadi will not be remembered for who they slept, dined or clicked a picture with. Once they're present and their now fans are gone. Shomadi very frankly admits in her introduction of the book that fundamental question, what more could one write in a book on Amitabh Bachchan? Well, as long as the man is creating and evolving, there is constant new matter to be added to his study. Aren't books today still coming up on Chaplin, on Hitchcock? In a week's time, a hardbound on his storyboard is going to come on the Amazon. On Kurosawa, Almodovar, Satyajit Ray, still. So much still needs to be seen and shown in a Raj Kapoor film, in a Manmohan Desai film, in a Puttana Kanagal film, a doyen in narrative experimentation in popular Kannada cinema, discovered courtesy my present Bangalore sojourn and adopted residence at the moment. The regional Indian cinema landscape is a minefield of research yet to be even scratched for a day. Film studies, 50 years old and the youngest discipline in humanities and social sciences, is a quest expanding with tremendous appetite with a subject verse as wide as our imagination verse. A handful of actors and some directors only have been engaged with it yet. The technicians and their technical achievements in every aspect of filmmaking, writing, cinematography, choreography, costume, sound, music, background score, lighting, and so on have barely even been acknowledged. Forget analysis. The future is digital, is passing. The future is visual now. Just look at the amount of time we now dedicate our lives to looking at a screen. As AI intelligence expands into the creative industries for good or bad, you will keep seeing Mr. Bachchan much after he is actually able to go to the sets. The nature of shooting of his parts in Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby, Mr. Bachchan's Hollywood debut, already has given us glimpses of that. The other day, we had a packed screening of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf film school. 5 decades later, even now the curiosity around its lead pairing got us an interested audience spanning 3 generations. Each of the performance in that intense psychological study is in close-up is rewarding. But there isn't a dearth of such acts in cinema. The relevance of that good work is the Taylor-Burton casting. Amitabh Bachchan will remain relevant as long as Rekha is. And she is another hell of a glam world icon who adapts with the times, fashions and life seasons like no other. Well, I would like to correct myself, like one other, Mr. Bachchan. Silsila, dismissed at the time of its release for a laborious first hour that more than redeemed itself as the boisterously kaleidoscopic rebel romance of its lead Amitabh Rekha pair peaks, still intrigues. It will offer more fodder and alternate critical discourse when somebody also turns the focus of the reading to the film's 2 master-class acts in restraint of Sanjeev Kumar and Jaya Bhadu. Not to discount the film's literary high notes, the prose and poetry, wordplay between Amitabh Bachchan and Lata Mangeshkar, the costumes and camera, the zooms and fades, the many shades of Shringar, Rasa, and the mounting operatic crescendo of a thought becoming a dare in Ye Kahan Aa Gaye Hum. A case study, a journal article, a book chapter in itself, and this is just one song. Every critique has a silsila take. I think if there is one recommendation and possible addition in the reprint of your book, Shomadi, it would be to know your thoughts on silsila and Bachchan's one hell of an other act in the film. Within quotes, none of the leading leads that played opposite me had blink and miss roles. They all had their place and importance. Amit ji had shared in an interview to me when I said that I think with with the angry young man coming the heroines to the backseat. He corrected me. An observation reinforced by Shomadi in her other Amitabh thesis. In a review of the Amitabh Jaya pairing, for example, in Abhiman, as you rightly said, in the book Shomadi writes, in Abhiman, Bachchan is the beleaguered famous hero women of all ages are ready to die for, but his claws come out when he discovers that his fame as a performing singer is threatened by the musical talents of his own wife. My opinion, as in Somadi's opinion, is that by othering his more talented wife, the husband merely defines himself as the other. He is the true other when measured within the standard of his husbandly duties, or when he is in conflict with his inner self, caught between the two solid pillars of accepting his wife as the conventional wife and accepting the wife as his competitor and rival in music. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is just a teaser to the kind of insights the book offers to supposedly enough analyzed and seen iconic screen acts. The viewer's comfortable acceptance is challenged page on page as the writer, through myriad seasons of watching and re-reviewing, educates us on multiple missed achievements. At the core of this book also is a very humanistic plea. Shomadi argues, encountering the other is difficult, the other challenges our way of doing things, demands our attention and holds us responsible for our actions. Their presence forces us to rethink our understanding of the way the world works. It is much easier to overlook that difference by looking for similarities or make those differences seem evil than it is to genuinely engage with them. Yet this otherness, called alterity by philosopher Emmanuel Levinas, is the thing to celebrate. It gives a solid rationale to interpret the holistic, cinematic image of Amitabh Bachchan as someone we need to celebrate. This philosophy of the other is powerful because it encourages us to rethink our attitude towards difference. It acknowledges that there are real and sometimes insurmountable differences between us, but tells us that it is okay. Instead of getting caught up searching for what we have in common or stigmatizing the things that set us apart, we should be open to learning from every individual we come across. No matter how much or how little of ourselves we see in them. I think that's for me is the essence of the book. And more so in today's emotive times of customized truths and manufactured histories. Shomadi's thesis is essential reading because it is a valuable book in world cinema and an essential text for anybody studying stardom. By recovering Amitabh Bachchan from the angry young man of the 1970s hangover, she has opened the repertoire of a superstar erroneously bracketed and limited in perception, though not much minded by Bachchan himself. He is far more chewing on those things. As he had said to me in my Stardust cover story interview with him, and I quote Mr. Bachchan there, sometimes it's best to leave an actor where he is best accepted. John Wayne never got off his horse in his entire career, nor did Charleston Heston from his chariot. Sean Connery was best known as 007, as was Shah Rukh Khan for his romantic adventures. Angry young men on Indian screen existed before Janjeer 2 and continue existing after as well, not as successors imitating Mr. Bachchan, but with signature angst interpretation of their own. Birju in Mother India could well be called the first angry young man of Hindustani cinema. Like Mr. Bachchan doesn't like the term Bollywood, I also prefer calling Hindustani than Hindi cinema. Because Hindustani cinema is incomplete without Urdu. Sunil Dutt continued in that avatar in the singing and swinging 60s with films like Mujhe Jeene Do. Dharmendra could have been a worthy successor in 1960s with films like Phool Aur Patthar and Vinod Khanna with Mera Gaon Mera Desh. but they frittered that potential in life or other genre pursuits. See them brood and you will realize they were serious competition to our official AIM of the 1970s. Just to use a Gen Z language, AIM is nothing but angry young man. Rahul Ravel's Arjun gave us Sunny Deol, successfully taking the legacy of the angry young man genre to the 1980s with films like Ghatak, Ghayal, Damini, followed with a new millennium comeback with Gadar. Nana Patekar was our resident young man, angry man of the 1990s, though not very young. The most impactful angry young men on screen are not those who just seem to be plain angry with the system. A lot of which the parallel cinema did with actors like Om Puri and Nasruddin Shah, but essentially a softie, a romantic, someone you can drool for, want to protect, because only then his anger becomes the audience's empathetic hurt. When a soft, vulnerable, fun-loving, relatable young boy next door who could have had a happy-go-lucky life becomes angry, popular cinema nomenclatures tend to stay longer. Just as the book Amitabh Bachchan as the Other will stay amongst the many written on Mr. Bachchan for its dispassionate, insightful, reflective, context-enhancing, connecting thoughts and explorations that reassert the timelessness of each of the 15 films discussed, carefully picked forth by Shoma Ji. Along with the process, you get also critical insights into the works of many Indian filmmakers and unacknowledged auteurs who honed the talent of Amitabh Bachchan in his foundational years. From Manmohan Desai to Rishikesh Mukherjee, Yash Chopra to Ramesh Sippy, in candid, matter-of-fact overviews. Notes made on them in passing are valuable guide motifs to dig into their works to generate more research outcomes. Film studies needs more journalists to write and contribute to the discipline with new insights to balance the dominant trend of academics from other disciplines studying films as case studies to support a theory more from the more established social sciences. This youngest discipline in humanities and social sciences needs more investigators who derive meanings also from the mise en scène, the lab of the studio, or the place of action, as often a good reporter does. And I say that with the experience and humility of having navigated cinema and its study from both these disciplinary pursuits for nearly 3 decades now. Thank you for this speaking the keynote invitation, Shoma Ji, but do call me when you get your next book launched. I will be an enthusiastic member in your audience with students of cinema who will study it for the love of the art form and not only as a medium and what all it does or impact or otherwise. From our School of Film, Media and Creative Arts, India's only film school in a liberal arts university at RB in Bangalore. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of cinema, and within it the world of Amitabh Bachchan, and within it the criticism and writings of Shoma Chatterji, a critique and a connoisseur of cinema of excellence and for life. A poem from an early Amitabh movie I would like to share here that tributes both the author of the book we are celebrating and her muse. My Hindi is bad, so forgive me. रिश्तों का रूप बदलता है, बुनियादें खत्म नहीं होती, तू अपनी अदाएं बख्श इन्हें, मैं अपनी वफाएं देता हूँ। मैं हर एक पल का शायर हूँ, हर एक पल मेरी कहानी है, हर एक पल मेरी हस्ती है, हर एक पल मेरी जवानी है। Age after all is only a state of the mind. Think Amitabh Bachchan, think Shoma Chatterji. I will end with another quote, a light-hearted answer by Mr. Bachchan during one of my interviews with him at the launch of Puri Jagannath's Buddha Hoga Tera Baap in our present millennium. Unleashed with the tagline, the angry young man isn't as young anymore, but he's still very angry. Producer Abhishek Bachchan's idea was to provide an entire new generation of audience the pleasure of enjoying Amitabh Bachchan in his original angry young man avatar. The senior Bachchan, however, had no such hang-ups and very matter-of-factly stated, the taglines are designed by publicists to make the buzz around the film attractive. You would have to see the film before you arrive at any deep meaning purpose for making any film. Not all films are made with the intent of changing any systems or preach how government should be run. Some are also about that one sole intent to entertain, and that I hope is what you shall get. Playing on the entertainment bit, the headline-seeking, controversy-seeking, stardust gene in me, and who is Mr. Bachchan then? Who amongst all your female co-stars do you think has aged the best or matured the most as an actress? And who you like to see in or think can carry up a female equivalent of Buddha Hoga Tera Baap with equal gusto? And he replied, they all have aged well and matured as actresses. The female Buddha question would best be answered by Puri Jagannath, the director of the film, since he brought about the title and the story in the first place. Though I will still say that Buddhi will be a difficult title to sell to any leading lady, indeed any lady at all. Enjoy the experience around the takeoff of another stimulating entertainment that also educates and enlightens on the on-screen lives of Mr. Bachchan. My hearty congratulations and best wishes to you, Shoma Ji, and thanks for the invitation once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keynote Speaker. That was truly enriching. It was oscillating from between the works of Edward Albee, when you took us to the journey of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, to Buddha Hoga Tera Baap, one of my favorite Bachchan films. When I was seeing that film, I was hoping that I once again get to see Amitabh Bachchan in this avatar. We have with us Dr. Sanjukta Dasgupta, renowned poet, translator, author, and when I asked Dr. Dasgupta to share her views on the book, and of course Mr. Bachchan, the other, I'd also like Dr. Dasgupta to tell us, being a poet, how much of a poet is the other Amitabh Bachchan? We know him as an actor, but he's so much of a poet as well. All yours, ma'am.
Hello everyone, good evening. Wonderful to see such a very focused audience. We don't need many, but we would need the ones who are here to listen. And having been in the classroom for ages, I know what a full classroom may mean with nobody listening. Yes, but here I was studying the eyes of everyone here, and everybody seemed to be quite engaged in, and also probably because all of us are fans of the great Bachchan, but none also we are great fans of Shoma Chatterji. And those of you who know her would be able to recognize why I say this, because she has been, as she said, a wonderful friend to all of us, irrespective of age, irrespective of what we do, and irrespective of the lives we lead. We just became friends, and we have remained friends. Not easy, So what I would just like to share some jottings I made, and of course it's much shorter than the brilliant keynote address, because I'm not an expert in film studies. I'm a commentator, and being a cultural commentator, I have also commented on films, but here for this particular book, I think there are two journeys here. And the professional journey of two prolific contemporaries, two people who have resided in the same country for over 8 decades, and the actor met the film journalist for 3 interview sessions. First between 1989 to 1990. Second, when both of them received the National Award, one as Best Actor, Bachchan, the other as Best Film Critic, Shoma Chatterji. This was on the 7th of May 1991, and the third and last time on August 1st, 1992, 34 years ago. If I have read Shoma Chatterji's book correctly and carefully, Bachchan did not betray any hint of recognizing her despite the third interview in a span of almost 2 years, when both film actor and the film critic were in their 50s. So, I'm not sure whether this was a case of dementia. Shoma Chatterji would be able to enlighten us on that. This book, Amitabh Bachchan as the other, is about the super actor who is seen on every hoarding, advertisement and big banner commercial films. The other is the author of this outstanding book. Vibrant, dynamic, unstoppable Shoma Chatterji, author of 30 books on films and hundreds of reviews and articles. In fact, her film reviews often motivate us to either watch a newly released movie or give it a miss. Breezy, confident elan of Shoma Chatterji as film journalist, writer and translator distinguishes her because of her candidness. You saw that during the opening remarks also, and she said, these are all my friends and they're going to praise me to the skies, please take it with a grain of salt. And so this is something that you usually don't get to hear. So this is a straight from the heart, down to earth person, but with an exceptional understanding of films, because for the past 50 years, she has been watching movies, and I think during the film festival, she watches 50 movies in a month or so. So, it's overwhelming. Like a Netflix addict like me would never be able to perform the way you have in your dedication to films. And the sparkling spontaneity of Chatterji's critically informed discourse, ranging from Derrida to Simone de Beauvoir, as in this book, is perhaps one of the many reasons that triggered our friendship of more than 2 decades that have included retail therapy and deep immersion in food cooked everywhere else but in our mutual homes. So this book is not a biography. It is not about the angry young man, not about the anti-hero too, which Shoma tells us, but her focus is on Bachchan as the other and the alternative roles which she has identified with the other. Now, in our literature classes, cultural studies classes, the theory of otherization is now, as Julie said, the fashion. But it's not only the fashion, I think there is a passion there in order to discover those absences and silences in the discourse. Because the mainstreaming of culture and the mainstreaming also in the writings of literatures of the past is something that Shoma is addressing here, and it's a brilliant book because it also gives you a wonderful list of the close reading of the films that she provides, of 15 films, but along with that she also provides us a list of scripts which have been generated from Bengali short stories, Bengali novels, and these scripts are ones also that she discusses here, and she does a brilliant job of the close reading, because the close reading is not just about storytelling, she's noticing even the use of the camera, which is what film studies people always, frown on us when literature people mess around with films. And they say that, oh, they are only the content specialists and they don't know that 100 people create a movie and one person writes a book. Yes? But I will just move on from there, that while urging her readers to review the roles you played by Amitabh Bachchan, Shoma Chatterji identifies two defining phases, correct me if I'm wrong, in the career graph of Amitabh Bachchan. One is the other, and the other is the othering of the other. These are the two, and Shoma has nodded her head, so I'm safe. Okay? So, rejecting the cliched label of the angry young man. These are the films like Diwar, Janjeer, Dawn, Trishul, Agnipath. As constricted, she uses the word limited. Chatterji observed the tag of the angry young man as a limitation because she said along with the angry young man, he was also brilliantly performing in films like Namak Haram, Mili, Chupke Chupke, Do Anjane, Kabhi Kabhi, Jurmana, where he played larger than life, not angry roles that the audiences remember. Further, she writes, the other identity of Bachchan is not the result of exclusion or marginalization linked to the demarcation according to groups, but rather it emerges from carving an individual identity as a star, actor, and also a human being in every given film. I will not go into the details of these, but I think it will be interesting for you to just, if I call out the list that she has provided in her book, 15 movies, I think most of us have watched all of them. These are Anand, when we were becoming a little papa and watching these films. So Anand, Parwana, Janjeer, Swadagar, Namak Haram, Abhiman, Diwar, Sholay, Akbar Antony, Dawn, Mukaddar Ka Sikandar, Shakti, Coolie, Main Azad Hoon, I love that movie, and Agnipath. So, one question which resonates especially in cultural studies is, can the subaltern speak? Here, Shoma is also asking, can the subaltern, implying the other, with a capital O, speak? This is Spivak's rhetorical question, initiated as a paradigmatic shift, leading to the emergence of the visible and vocal subaltern, the other, or the marginalized other, the wretched of the earth on the center stage, who is spectacularly pole-vaulted from the remote peripheries. So in the other films, so-called, of Amitabh Bachchan, as identified by Shoma, instead of the stereotypical roles of the rich, elite, middle class or upper middle class, and handsome young men caught in various complex issues of love, longing, loss, illness, were brushed aside. The credit also goes to the filmmakers and to the scriptwriters. They were reconstructing Amitabh Bachchan. Instead, there emerged a very tall, lanky, dark, and handsome representative of the working class, who was iconized as the anti-hero, the challenger, the Che Guevara of Hindi cinema, with a mesmerizing baritone who asked the questions and dealt the blows that earlier films of the poor and neglected, like the Rajkottan films, could not achieve. They were based on sentiment, sympathy, and empathy. The films in which Amitabh Bachchan recreated the image of the marginalized subaltern, the other, the anti-hero who zoomed over every hero in Bollywood, mesmerized the viewers, and undoubtedly our super film journalist Shoma Chatterji was as fascinated by Amitabh as all of us. It is obvious if you read the book. A fan is writing, yes, not only a film critic. And yet, Amitabh Bachchan did not have to go for the Arnold Schwarzenegger copy of the rippling muscles, bicep-throbbing image created by his younger contemporaries. The other, as Chatterji describes Bachchan, did not just speak. The subaltern made himself heard, loved, and admired. This game-changing transformation that the neglected, the marginalized, the subaltern, the invisible becomes the hero of the movie. And the mainstreaming of the coolie is a fantastic moment in the film, as all the other movies in which he has acted in a way which is not about privilege, which is not about advantage, which is not about the elite, but as a representative of a struggling young man. And in her preface, I will just read a section of that, because nowadays, you know, we like to watch more, read less, so I'm going to read a little bit, just to prove that I can still read, okay? So Shoma writes in her preface, my work deals only with Amitabh's evolution as an actor, beginning with flop roles in flop films to rise to the role of the first angry young man, to eventually mellow into some of the most versatile range of roles ever seen in world cinema that covers every possible character. And she's given a lot of examples, I will not go into all that. And then she says, however, remember, it's not only about the other. The second phase was othering the other, another phase. So he keeps on reinventing himself, and he not only does that, the filmmakers do that. The script writers or the screenwriters do that. It's more stylish to say screenwriters nowadays, yeah? So the screenwriters do that, and this sensitivity of what will suit this superstar of the Hindi cinema is fantastic in terms of the intelligence of both the filmmaker and the scriptwriter. The filmmaker might have fantastic ideas, but if the screenwriter messes it up, then then I think the filmmaker will have to sit down and write it all out, as Shotajit Ray had to do. But here I think there is a wonderful teamwork that goes on there. And how do I know all this? Because of her. She's written about all the filmmakers like Manmohan Desai, and also the ideologies of the various filmmakers. Every filmmaker, like every writer, writes about the political. And the personal also is the political. There is no writing which can be without this political persona. If you do not have an ideology, if you do not have an objective which is about that standpoint that we talk about again in cultural studies, then the film might be probably brilliantly entertaining, but you forget it in a jiffy. I just want to conclude again with a reference to the othering. So here again Shoma writes, Amitabh transformed his image altogether and started playing roles suitable to his age and to the times. He began to play the patriarch in Hindi cinema. He achieved much success in his new form, but again Bachchan was not satisfied with just playing the patriarch. So, gauging the changing environment of a society where people were becoming more open to experimental cinema and changing masculine images from violent and dominant to intellectual and sexual, Bachchan was quick to grab the opportunity and picked films which were more in tune with the times and suited to his age and personality. Today, Bachchan is doing a variety of roles from Godfather to grandfather, to philandering patriarch, to an aging romantic. And from his response that whether there can be a Buddhi, we know he's also a fantastic diplomat. He did not name anyone, yes, because for obvious reasons. So then, Bachchan, I think Amitabh Bachchan was born to be the other. I'm just concluding. Initially, his parents decided to name him Inkla. Inkla. Srivastav was the family surname. To free themselves from the stigma of caste identification, his poet father used Bachchan as his pet name. That became the family surname, Bachchan, not Srivastava. We can infer that iconoclasm, othering and alterity as role-playing comes to Amitabh Bachchan more naturally than preserving unquestioningly stereotypical, cliched images and iconography. My congratulations once again to Shoma Chatterji for writing this outstanding critique of the cinematic roles played by one of the world's most outstanding actors, who probably at this moment is in some studio shooting his next film in his dedicated, immersive, empathetic mode, which is his unique selling point, both as an actor and a creative performer in the cultural industries. Thank you. I don't know about his poetry. I know about his dad's poetry, especially Madhuchala.
You already did wax eloquent though. The way you spoke, it was sheer poetry itself.
Thank you.
We have been hearing filmmakers, film critics. How about hearing from a filmmaker of this generation? Ranjan, all yours. We'd like to hear from you. And before that, just one observation. Hearing our speakers so far, we have been talking about the angry young man, but there's been a strong influence of John Osborne's work through Jimmy Potter, which I feel was the original angry young man, and then the impact on our films as well. Ranjan, all yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Shomadi to have me here. I'm already feeling like the other among this very erudite audience and very erudite panelists. As such, I'm a more confident filmmaker behind the camera, but when the lenses are actually turned on me, I become nervous and tongue-tied. That is me. Shomadi, first of all, I would like to come to Shomadi. I discovered Shomadi in the library of the film school that I was studying in, and I read a couple of books on her, on certain subjects, on certain filmmakers. And here I am today talking about a book that has been written by her, so I must have done something proper in all these years. Shomadi, I was shooting, I'm very sorry for my voice because I have been shooting in the Sundarbans since the last 3-4 months on my next film, and my voice is a little broken, under the weather, so sorry for that. And Shomadi had called me up, and I was in a place called Gobardhanpur, which is in the far southernmost tip of the Sundarbans. And she said, Ranjan, are you free on the 19th of April? Because I have a book launch on Amitabh Bachchan. And I was not sure. And I said, okay, Shomadi, I'll be there. And I'm glad that I'm here. She just has to snap her fingers, and I know that I would be here. From before I became a filmmaker, when I was a screenwriter with Aparna Sen or Niti Mrinalini, I have known her, and she has been a constant support to me and to my growth through all my 4 films. And I'm proud that she has reviewed each of my films, and she has been kind in her reviews and critical over the phone, and yeah, so there is my thing for Shomadi, and she's a legend, and whatever she writes, I'm not a film theorist, I'm not a film studies student. I keep away from all the books on film studies. Very consciously, I do not read read books on film studies, on film theory, but I have read, I have gone through books on filmmaking, so probably I'm not the best person to speak about this particular book. There are other luminaries over here who can throw proper light on this book. I think this entire subject of the other is what we encounter every day in our lives, in our cultural lives, in our social lives. As for instance, Shomadi said about the thin crowd over here, you know, on the launch of this book, Amitabh Bachchan, the other. I'm sure if this would have been a book on Satyajit Ray or Mrinal Sen or Ritvik Ghatak or Shoma A Chatterji, then we would have seen more audience, you know. So therein we start with Amitabh Bachchan, the star, as the other. And having a book on that, I think is a brave attempt in itself, because having a book on Girish Karnad, having a book on Om Puri, having a book on Nasiruddin Shah probably would have had more audience than having a book on Amitabh Bachchan as the other. In our daily lives as a filmmaker in Calcutta, we do have to face, we independent filmmakers, we do have to face this othering, you know, in the ecosystem that we have here. So we are aware of the other here. At the film school where we had read, we had met another angry young man who had acted in a film called Artha Satya, Om Puri. There he had played a police officer on his first deputation. And to us, he had become the angry young man. He had become the angry young man. And then we had the angry young man in Amitabh Bachchan in numerous other films. And incidentally, or accidentally, you see I'm already so nervous. Incidentally or accidentally, we were not exposed to a lot of Hindi films in our childhood, because, you know, our parents, they would feel that Hindi cinema or Hindi films are anyway all pervasive. And after you grow up, you will be watching Hindi films, so no Hindi cinema at home, no Hindi cinema viewing at home. So today I curse them that, you know, we discovered Hindi films only after I entered Jadavpur University as a student of physics. Then we had started watching, you know, and vigorously devouring all the Hindi films that were coming our way. But we did not have a Bachchan, we did not have an Om Puri. We had all the SRKs and, you know, all the other kind of films. So Amitabh Bachchan's films and all the films of the yesteryears, we had to catch up on the laptop, on the television, and on media like that. Amitabh Bachchan as the other, I went through the book and I went through through some of the chapters. I must admit that because of my schedule, I could not complete the entire book, Shomani. But one of my favorite films where I actually related to him playing the other was, of course, Saudagar. And he was pitted against Nutan, an aging Nutan. And therein I felt how, as a character, and of course it was from a Bengali story, and how as a character, as an entity, as someone who's coming out from outside, coming in from outside and joining this woman, joining this lady in her business, and how he played that character, and how the character was actually the entire story, and the character, the enactment and the performance had panned out. I felt that I could relate to the othering of Amitabh Bachchan in that particular film. Of course, there was Agnipath, where he was playing the subaltern. Then one other film which is not there in your book, Hum, where he had played a I mean, you know. So that was another film where Amitabh Bachchan had played the other. But I have this one thing to say about this entire concept of the other of Amitabh Bachchan, I have always felt that him being the other is more of a construct than an organic, natural thing that had probably emerged out of the societal or the political times of that. Of course, it reflected the corrupt times, the protest of the ordinary person, and the reflection of those on the screen. But the other that was portrayed by Amitabh Bachchan was more of an artificial construct in my mind. Of course, brilliantly brought out by Shomadi, this artificial construct. But more naturally, these the othering of, or the other, the theory of other would probably be there in the parallel cinema of those days, and Saudagar would be an example of that. Would be a certain example of those films. I found one aspect of the entire book interesting was how she mentioned the other Amitabh Bachchan in Abhiman, which one did not think about while watching the film, but while reading the book and then thinking in retrospective, one felt in retrospect how that fell in place, and one could, see the whole thing in a new light. I enjoyed the othering of other Amitabh Bachchan, where she had mentioned, that she had discussed all these films like Black, then there was Spa, then there was Piku, these where the other is being othered, by Bachchan's performance, by Bachchan's characters, by the filmmakers that were casting him and the stories. I found that very interesting. I have read in fragments the whole book. I have read the othering of the other, and I have read a few of the chapters. As I mentioned, I had read Abhiman and I had read Saudagar. But as a student of cinema, as a student of filmmaking, I can only vouch for Shomadi's. I'm not even qualified to vouch for your works, Shomadi. But I can just vouch that as for me, I will stand to gain a lot as I read this book, and I'm sure I will be discovering Mr. Bachchan much better than what we have learnt of him, what we have heard about him, what we have seen of him. And to be honest, I will be a very honest filmmaker. We have always held Nasiruddin Shahji and Om Puri and the parallel cinema actors in high esteem, and never really given Mr. Bachchan probably the due that he should get. And I'm sure with this book, through this book, throwing another light on him, Shomadi has done great service to Mr. Bachchan and his countless admirers, and probably to also filmmakers like us. And I'm sure we will stand to gain a lot from this book. That's all that I have to say. Good evening to all of you.
Ranjan, you said that you are nervous when you are not behind the camera. If that's the way you sound when you are nervous, then it's good to have you nervous. We have with us Shubha Dashmurli, but I will ask ma'am to share her views not as a documentary filmmaker, but also the other Shubhadi that I happen to know, constantly working with young people, encouraging them, doing projects with them, reaching out to them, and promoting arts in minds of young creative minds. Shubhadi, would like to hear from you. How do we keep rediscovering Bachchan? Borrowing from Shomadi's works, we'd surely like to hear this from you.
Good evening, everybody. It's a privilege to stand here and talk about Shomadi's work. I have been a follower, very close, ardent follower of Shomadi's work, at least in the last, let us say, last 10 years or so, perhaps not so much his earlier work. And I have not been that much of a follower of Amitabh Bachchan's work, but through Shomadi's eyes, after reading at least portions of the book, not that I have read the book from cover to cover yet, but reading portions of the book, I have also gained a lot of new insights about Amitabh Bachchan. So, Shomadi, as always, in all her books are thoroughly researched. Whenever she writes a book, she's fully immersed into her subject, and she does thorough research on of the subject from various facets. So, for example, only after reading Shomadi's book, I came to know about the early career of Bachchan, which was a series of flops. Now, I knew about South Hindustani because when I was a school child in Delhi, our bus stand was near a movie hall called Eros Cinema, and South Hindustani was released there, and a big hoarding of South Hindustani was there. So every day while waiting for our bus, we used to see that. So that was my first exposure to Amitabh Bachchan. But in that era, I never knew, before reading Shomadi's book, about, of course, you may think that I am really ignorant, but whatever that is, that there have been films like Pehli Nazar, Bansi Bijru, Pyar Ki Kahani, Raste Ka Patthar, Bandhe Haath, then Parwana. She says that the Parwana made in the year 1971 was the first negative role that Bachchan played. Then Pyar Ki Kahani was an 11th flop. In Bachchan's career, Pyar Ki Kahani was the 11th flop. Okay. Then Ek Nazar, it foretells the angry young man. That's what she writes here. And in this Ek Nazar, Jaya Bhaduri's acting actually let the film down. The film was flop according to her a lot because of Jaya Bhaduri's acting, where she could not live up to the role of the courtesan woman, and she could not dance to save her life. So like that, all that information that I got about Bachchan's early career is thanks to Shomadi, because she does such thorough research when she writes a book. So each book that she comes up with is really a gold mine, and this book also holds, it's the same. Then the other thing that I do some writing, film reviews, etc. I have reviewed 2 of her earlier books also. So there is one whole chapter on the other. Okay, the definition of the other, interpretation of other from different scholars' point of view. Not only Simone de Beauvoir, she has quoted our SRFTI young scholar. What's his name? Huh? No, SRFTI scholar. No, that who is now teaching in SRFTI. I thought I will meet him today. Shoma A Chatterji. Yeah, okay. So like that entire theory about the other. So which is for every cinema student or cultural studies students, that is a very useful chapter. And then there is one chapter where she has written about her 3 interviews of Amitabh Bachchan, where apparently Amitabh Bachchan couldn't recognize her, so whether that was a sign of dementia or whatever. But she has written in details about her 3 interviews. And then in the last one, which she was doing for Statesman, the way her approach to interviewing, which I found very interesting, is that she went with a set of words, and she said that I will say some words and you will give either your emotional reaction or your philosophical response or your response as a professional to the words. And then the whole list, the entire list of words she has given in that chapter, what the words were and what Amitabh Bachchan's response is. So every film journalist or film critic for such a person who wants to do writing in cinema, that again is a very revealing, very enlightening chapter. So this book, from various aspects, from different aspects, this book is extremely useful, like her other books also, because it is so thoroughly researched and so full of information. So not only from Amitabh Bachchan as the other from a theoretical point of view, but also Amitabh Bachchan's relationships with the various directors like Rishikesh Mukherjee and Prakash Mehra and of course Yash Chopra and the others. So all this has come out very well. But I have some questions for Shomadi. Like, she has taken 15 films from 1971 to 1990. and man read out the names of all the 15 films, okay? So why Shoma stopped at 1990, or rather, if she had to take 15 films, why didn't she spread out? You know, because Amitabh Bachchan is still active. He's still coming up with very interesting films. Like we had one, I don't know how many of you have seen that film, a film called Jhund, which was released last year. It's a brilliant film, although it didn't do well at the box office, but I think it was a very well made film. Then we had Goodbye, and then of course Pink did quite well commercially. So Amitabh Bachchan has played very unique roles, it has been and continuing to play very unique roles. So perhaps Shomadi will answer in the course of this evening's discussion that why she stopped at 1990, and because Amitabh Bachchan is as active as before now. So why didn't she spread out the choice of 15 films on a wider time scale? So I would like to hear her answer on that question, and I would urge everybody to read, grab a copy of the book and read it, because whether you are a fan of Amitabh Bachchan, or whether you are a film scholar, student of film studies, or an aspiring film journalist, or just somebody interested in the Indian cinema, this book is a storehouse of information, and it gives new perspectives to India's biggest superhero. So with that, I would like to end whatever I have. Thank you very much.
I included those 15 films because they were in close succession, and I wanted to take from the point when he became very successful till I felt that he should not play. I felt he should not play a hero anymore. The second reason is 15. I originally planned to do 25 films, but looking at my age, I thought if I do 25 films, I might not last that long to finish the book. So I reduced the number to 15. It's a very, very simple answer to that question. But what you have said, I could have spread it further. I've left out many films which I could have loved to do, like the comedy one, which is that Rishikesh Mukherjee one, Chupke Chupke. I would have loved to take it. I would have loved to take Trishul. That's a very, very interesting film. But I couldn't take it because I thought, every time I would have taken that. No, I'm never satisfied with the research. I always say that there is some more research needed to be done. Even today I feel that more research needed to be done. It's not done completely. But then no author can do exhaustive research. We are not Tagore, or not Vishwanath Rai. So anyway, the closer we go to that person, the better. Okay, Tathagata, over to you.
Before I ask Ms. Shamlata Mondal to kind of tell us about her views, I'm quite curious to know that nobody is talking about Kaun Banega Crorepati, a very different socio-political economical structure altogether, even if it is not a film.
I have already written it in my introductory chapter that I am not going to include anything which he has done away from films. Only hero, only actor. Not otherwise that my whole focus would be lost, you know, because he's a
because he's an institution, yes, and he's known as the one-man institution. For sure.
He's also part of India's soft power abroad.
There's so much to him, even in the field of education. Shoma will ask you to share your views.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, rather. We've been listening to so many different perspectives about Shoma and her book. I really have nothing much to add. I'll just add 2 or 3 things which I think should be focused. First and foremost, Shoma mentioned it's so difficult with friends. She is a friend, and more important so, I think I am one of those teachers, professors, who has been reviewing all her films, books that are published with such indefatigable, regularity that by the time you finish, only a few months back, we did Woman and the Gays. I wrote a big review, and here comes Shoma calling me, Somdatta, I've got a new book on Bachchan, and would you review it? Now, being a reviewer, of course, and a friend, I said yes. But what was the most difficult thing was, she said, you know how publishers are stingy about not sending reviewers copies? It'll take time. So would you mind if I send you the soft copy with the watermark on it and then you get it reviewed? I said, fine, send it. Now I have grown old. I am retired now 5 years after a long career of teaching. And normally, I don't know, maybe with people of my age, I don't like to read books on the computer screen at all. I want the physical book. And for doing a review, it's much easier because I can mark it, write comments then and there in the margin. I've been doing it for all reviewers. And what I found, when I said yes, and Shoma sent it, and when I sat down to read it in my computer, I found it was even more difficult to read and write copious notes as I do for evaluating PhD thesis of various universities. I had to put down page number, this query, page number so-and-so, she has written this, because I didn't have the text in front of me. It's very difficult, I don't know whether you all find it or not, but to read a full book and then to, make notes, page after page, queries, online, sitting at your computer screen, it not only hurts your eyes, but also it's a strenuous. Anyhow, I'm very happy. I read the book, and what I found, and I think, if not the first, I sent in the review, and here our reviewer, the editor of the review journal, he brought it out within a week. I sent it. Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, he's here, and Silhouette magazine 2 days before has published the detailed review of Shoma's book. So if you want, you can just log in and read it. I'm not going to, repeat what I wrote, but 2 or 3 things struck me. Not as a friend. Everyone has mentioned that Shoma is so particular in doing research before writing. In fact, sometimes in the last book I told her, you could have reduced a bit. You've done too much of research for the book, the woman book. So here, what I found fascinating, first when she sent me the book is, I said, a book on Amitabh Bachchan, what new thing will she add? She's going to fill 400 pages with what? This was my first question to myself. Then second I thought, okay, the other with the capital O and within quotation marks. Now as teachers, post-colonial teaching for over the years, teaching English in post-colonial and cultural studies classes, we know the other has been done to death. And teaching Said and others in the classroom over the years, this idea of the other, again that struck me. Well, how can she put in this frame of the other who doesn't fit into the mainstream? This is the most general idea. How can she put it in all the films that she's analyzing? Now this is where I want to draw your attention. When I put in copious notes, and I did it in my review, that even within this other, she has managed to frame 10 different perspectives of looking at the other. In each film, this is for you to read and find out. 10 different ways. In each film, the other is different. Okay, he's an angry young man. You're doing away with that image. But in each film, the other is a different other than the earlier film. The outsider, the not compromising person, is not the same Bachchan in the earlier film. This is what fascinated me. At least, if I'm not wrong, Shoma, 10 different you found out. 1, 2, 3, 4, I marked it. I don't do copious notes, as I said, even for marking serious PhD thesis of universities. I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I found 10 different new perspectives through which Shoma has really analyzed this idea of the other. She has put in her, sufficient quantity of background of what is very essential to make the book a little more scholarly, talking about all the major post-colonial critics who talk about the other, beginning from Edward Said and others. But that is not the part. What I found, and the same question also struck me, why did she stop at that particular year? No, why couldn't she? Though she has a long chapter called The Othering of the Other, which is again, the second phase of his more mellowed life, mellowed film star. So the othering of the other, this chapter I found very, very, significant portion of her study. And the other which I found interesting is the way she has conglomerated together her interviews with Amitabh into different categories. The psychological studies, this way. It's not like, what are you doing now? What is your next project? What do you think? It's not the typical Q&A way of, doing an interview. So that book, the section of that long interview, which she says, is I think that one of the USP, of the book, of this book, apart from the films. Now, some of my young panelists have spoken about seeing Amitabh Bachchan much later in his mellowed years, because when they started seeing Hindi films, Bachchan was already not the craze. It was Shah Rukh Khan and the others. But my friend sitting here, when we were just out of our schools and entered the college and staying in a hostel, the suddenly found freedom, liberty to go out and watch and do whatever. That was the time, Abhiman, that was the time, all the special Anand, Abhiman, and all those films had just come. And I don't know how many times I saw Abhiman, maybe 10 or 12 times at that point. And I had an aunt one day in one of the shows sitting next to me who could not understand a word of Hindi. And when we were laughing or at some joke, she would say, tell me, what happened? Why is everyone laughing now? What does that Hindi sentence mean? So you were sitting, at that point of time, my mother's generation, the new phenomena of Amitabh Bachchan had come. They could relate it, the story, but they could not follow the dialogue. Hindi was very uncommon to my mother, who Uttam Suchitra, who was fed with those kind of films. And so that was the period when we had all fallen in love with Amitabh Bachchan. We did not think him as the other, the theoretical perspectives that we now, after aging and after all these years, we think of. But I won't take long because I have, I think, another speaker. But let me tell you, this book, what someone just mentioned, many people might look down, oh, Amitabh Bachchan, it's not the great, Satyajit Ray or Ritik Ghatok kind of a star. What was Shoma Chatterji writing on Amitabh Bachchan at this age? But this is something I would have reviewed, and I will be doing it, writing and reviewing any more books that Shoma will come out of her joli in the next 6 months. I'll find another new book, I'm pretty sure. And every mail she tells me, I'm going to be 80, but every morning if I call her, I can't find out a right time to call her. Because whenever I'm calling her, she says, I'm busy watching a movie. Can I talk to you later? Morning 10:30, she's watching a movie. Afternoon, she's watching another movie. I just hats off to her energy, really. You should give her a hand. And she says, I'm 80. She says, I'm 80. And with all this, with all her expertise, and I think 30 books or so that she's already authored, not all of them have been commercially successful. And she tells me very often how many publishers have cheated her and not paid a single paisa of royalty, including this one. And I myself, being an author of many books, know how miserly publishers can be. Only last year, a book of mine was released on Rituparna Ghosh, and Shoma, Shubha, all of them were in the panel. And let me tell you the story that my publisher did not give the 5 copies of the book to be released on that day. I had to buy them and give it to the audience. So when she said the book is not going to come soon, can you read the watermarked, computer copy? I said, yes, surely. And I did it, and I'm very happy that it is, I think, the first very long, full-length review of this book that has already come out. And I'm not going to add anything more. I'm still a fan of Bachchan, especially those our formative college years when we would run out from the hostel and go and watch another Amitabh movie. But the later ones, I don't know, after a certain period of time, not every Bachchan movie I have watched. So I think age has a factor that Shoma also stopped at a point when our interest in Amitabh, my interest in Amitabh and his films also come coincidentally together. With these few words, I think all of you will enjoy the book. Please grab the physical copy and read it. I'm waiting for my physical copy of the book to go through it again, not that watermarked computer version e-copy. Thank you, with all the few words, what I had to say.
Just a sec about the Amitabh Bachchan phase. I was recently interviewed by, it's called India Connect. It's a Singapore television channel based in Singapore. And the guy there is Himanshu Verma, and he said, I want to interview you before the book comes out. I said, fine. And I said, I don't have to prepare anything because I've just written the book, so it's all there in my head till now. So he asked me one very delicate question. He said, did you have a crush on Amitabh that you're writing a book now? I said, I had a crush at one time, not now. And the funniest thing is that once I used to write regularly for Screen. If you, those are old timers, will remember Screen. It was a very prestigious newspaper, a weekly newspaper coming out from the Indian Express House, very nice one. So I wrote in Screen for 32 years, and I'm the oldest columnist. When it closed down, I also withdrew from Screen. Of course, there was no platform for me to write on. So that time, Screen used to sometimes come out with special numbers, like Shabdavit Rai, sometimes Manmohan Desai, sometimes, and it will not be only in the cover, all the inside pages are dedicated to that guy. I was not a journalist, I was trying to be a journalist because I was already teaching economics in a college there. So, one time, the entire Screen was an Amitabh Bachchan issue. Alright, everywhere, in every page you could find Amitabh Bachchan, and wonderful. Unfortunately, I don't have it in my collection now, because it would have been a wonderful source of research for me. And I couldn't find it on the net also, because Screen is not there, so you don't get the old things. Then Himanshu asked me, did you have a crush on Mr. Bachchan that you wrote? I said, yes, one time of course I had. And I'm not the only one I have. That is just to impress the impact that he had on women of all ages. Because when I brought the Screen home, I was teaching in a college. While coming back, I picked it up from the newsstand. And my mother, myself, and my daughter just jumped on that issue. And we are fighting with each other to get this. So imagine the impact that he had on 3 generations of women during his angry young man phase. Alright? But I had once approached him to write a book, if he would cooperate with me to write a book. He said no. Because, why he said no also I came to know, because I had written, Amitabh Bachchan, will you please retire now? Because he was doing a string of terrible films like Teen. You know, very, very bad films. And he was taken in those films just because of his name. Because he's Amitabh Bachchan, like what Shobdapta said just now. I agree with her totally. Some of his films are going, he's taken only for the star value. And you can make out that he's also not interested in that film at all. So why is he there in the film at all? Only for his name, or only for the money that he gets. So, of course, consistency is not, I would not blame him for being inconsistent, because carrying on for 50 years. For example, I am writing books now since COVID. I am writing a book every year. I was not so prolific earlier, but now I am writing every year because I have a whole collection of my articles to fall back on thanks to the computer. Alright, so and now you can also do the research on internet and all that. Yeah, so I have lots of books of my own. So it was not very difficult. Why I wrote the book, the question that I've answered it in the book itself, because I thought that this is something which nobody has harped on for Amitabh Bachchan, the other. Alright, I wanted to take him out of the angry young man image, even while he was the angry young man, to take him out of that and show that he was, even in those films, he was not just the angry young man. And that is what differentiates him from Dilip Kumar and Ashok Kumar and Devanand. and Raj Kapoor, because they were equally talented. I will not at all belittle them by saying that they are less talented than Amitabh Bachchan. No, they were not. But at that time, there was a cliche. So they were put in that cliche. Dilip Kumar was the tragedy king. Devanand was the romantic hero. And Raj Kapoor was the sort of a copycat of Charlie Chaplin. Alright, that's how I look at him. So they were cliched. Whether they wanted to be cliched or not is a different matter. But they were all cliched. And he came out of that. Now, you can ask me why is the Angry Young Man also not a cliche? If you read my book and if you go through those films again, you will find that no, even then he's not a cliche. He's played different roles, like you said in which is that Saudagar. He plays completely different role even when he's in the Angry Young Man during his peak years. When I saw the film, I was very shocked, because how can he play this film? He's climbing on the tree and he's bringing out the palm all by himself. And he was skinny and he was positively ugly to look at that time. I must say. All the looks came on later on when he put on a little bit of weight and all that. So that's our age. Simple. If I was younger, I wouldn't have said this.
I think even then also it would have been just the way that you are right now. I must say.
Sorry, but the whole heap of folk who might want to ask some questions.
Very much. We have one speaker to go, and then of course I have that in mind for sure. We have heard film critics, we have heard film educators, filmmaker. How about actually hearing it from an actor? We have been growing in years where it's been difficult to keep away from the impact of Mr. Bachchan. Whether be it on stage, on screen. I remember there was a phase when I tried becoming a left-hander. Who better than Bobby, who is here with us, to tell us about the impact of Amitabh Bachchan on an actor, on the actor's psyche, and of course, lot more also focusing on the book. Bobby?
देखो अभी खोना नहीं, कभी जुदा होना नहीं. देखो अभी खोना नहीं, कभी जुदा होना नहीं. ऐसे यूं ही मिले रहेंगे दोनों, वादा रहा ये इस शाम का. जाने तू या जाने ना, माने तू या माने ना. तेरा मुझसे है पहले का नाता कोई, यूं ही नहीं दिल लुभाता कोई. तेरा मुझसे है पहले का नाता कोई, यूं ही नहीं दिल लुभाता कोई. जाने तू या जाने ना, माने तू या माने ना. आ गले लग जा. Why I sang the song? Two reasons. One is the lyrics and my relation with you, TC, Ajoyda, is very akin. It goes with the lyrics. Mane tu ya mane na. We have something that bonds us for many years since the past, right? And another reason I sang the song is Aag Gale Lag Ja and Zanjeer, both released in 1973, but the shooting process started in 1971 for Aag Gale Lag Ja, and Manmohan Desai was directing it. And in one of the interviews, Mr. Bachchan said that he thought that he missed out on the movie, he was rejected for the movie, and Mr. Shashi Kapoor was taken for this movie. But he said in a very candid moment, in a candid mood, he said that I feel bad that I didn't lip sync for this song because it's one of his very favorite songs, not the movie as such. So that is one reason, and that is the second reason I sang this song. I met Mr. Bachchan when he was shooting for The Last Lear. I was shooting in the same studio, Bharat Lokhite shooting Kochila. So we got the information that he's going to shoot the next day, 7 o'clock in the morning, what's your call time? 7 o'clock in the morning. What you rightly said about his punctuality, sir. So Jishu, Amra, so I, Ritudako, we, requested, Jishuke Amra request korlam somehow, please, ekটু যদি দেখা করা যায়.
তো আমার সেদিনকে কল টাইম ছিল at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I reached there at 6:30 in the morning, right? Expecting that, okay, 7 o'clock call time তো 8টা, 8:30, 9টা, 10টা, ওই 10টার সময় হয়তো শুরু হবে at about 10 o'clock. 6:30 we were outside and we heard that he has already reached. If you have seen the last layer, I'm sure you have. He had an extensive wig and makeup, and the dialogues which he was speaking was Shakespearean.
Yes.
It was very difficult. So 6:45 TC, 6:45, he was out of his vanity van already. Amra tarpore jokhon permission pelam, we went into the, when he was hey chair ano, sat and greeting everybody, being nice to everybody. Amio giye pranam korlam, mathay hat dilo. TC, Shomadi, the way a person blesses you, you can understand if it is superficial or if it is coming, actually genuine. Ashirwad korlo, jigesh korlo, tumi ke? So I introduced myself. Acha, television shooting cholche, okay, what is your character? Etuku porjonto jigesh kore tarpor khub nicely bollo, can I just prepare for myself because we have a long scene, and I'm like, yes sir, yes, ওইটুকুই আমার কাছে অনেক। তো এই যে পাংচুয়ালিটির ব্যাপারটা, অমিতাভ বচ্চন যদি 7 o'clock না এসে সেদিনকে রাত 2টোর সময় এসে শুটিং করতো, কারোর কিচ্ছু বলার থাকতো না। বাট এই যে রেলেভেন্স, এত বছর ওনার আরো অনেক কন্টেম্পোরারিজ আছে, they are nowhere to be seen, but Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is still relevant. I feel this is the most, the other jodi bolte hoy, this is the lesson that we have to learn from him as an actor, as human beings, as professionals. Professionalism is not money. Ami koto taka pelam amar provider er kaছ theke. Professionalism amar baba make at least shikhechen Amitabh Bachchan er kaছ theke, ami eta shikhechi, Mr. Dipankar der kaছ theke eta shikhechi. How much you give back to the provider, not through money but through your services. How much you give back. 2012 সালে এই যে স্ক্রিন নিয়ে কথা হচ্ছিল, আমার বাড়িতে সে ছোটবেলা থেকে প্রত্যেক সপ্তাহে every week the screen used to come, and I am a voracious screen reader. Stardust, Cineblitz, Filmfare, সবকিছু আনন্দ লোক, but screen was something that I just died upon. ওই যে ব্রডশিট হোক বা ট্যাবলয়েড হোক, ওই যে নতুন সিনেমার অ্যাড আসবে, আমার ওটা একটা স্বপ্নের দুনিয়া ছিল। ইভেন আমি একজন মেরিন ইঞ্জিনিয়ার বিফোর বিং অ্যান অ্যাক্টর। আমি যখন সারা পৃথিবীর বাইরে, মানে পৃথিবী ঘুরতাম হয়তো জাহাজে করে, all the screens used to come, and আমি সেগুলোকে ডিসকন্টিনিউ করিনি। আমার সাবস্ক্রিপশন ছিল with Indian Express, and they used to come, and আমি হয়তো 8 মাস পরে 9 মাস পরে ফিরতাম, and I used to get all this 32, 36 copies, and I used to, মা বলতো তুই কি মুখস্থ করছিস এসব? I used to. যেটা বলছিলাম যে স্ক্রিন ওয়াজ মাই অবজেক্ট অফ কন্টেনশন। 2012 সালে I did a movie with Mr. Buddhadev Dasgupta. It was a Hindi movie. It was my privilege to work with him. The Station. যেই শুক্রবারে ফিল্মটা রিলিজ করার কথা, তার আগের শুক্রবারে suddenly I get a phone call from Shoma Di. যে Bobby, your interview, full page interview, is on screen. Is on screen. Believe me, আমি অনেক ইন্টারভিউতে বলেছি, আমাকে অনেক জার্নালিস্টরা জিজ্ঞেস করেছে যে ববিদা, মিস্টার চক্রবর্তী, what is your bucket list and your ticked off? I mean, this is one bucket list. আমার ছবি, and adding to that, এই কথাটা আমি কেন বলছি, বাদিকে মিস্টার অমিতাভ বচ্চন, সেই সময় ট্যাবলয়েড হিসেবে বেরোতো, এইদিকে আমার ছবি ববি চক্রবর্তী ফ্রম কলকাতা, and বাদিকে মিস্টার অমিতাভ বচ্চন। So তার জন্য Shoma Di দায়ী। I think we must give a hand to Shoma Di for being such an important part of all our lives, for the person that she is. Not only the talented person, the gifted reader, the gifted writer, the gifted critic, but the gifted human being that she is. আমি এখনো বইটা পড়ে উঠিনি, আমি পড়বো, কারণ it is Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, for heaven's sake, যার জন্য আমি অগ্নিপথ দেখতে গিয়ে পুলিশের লাঠি পর্যন্ত খেয়েছি। মেনকা সিনেমা হলের বাইরে এমন লাঠির বাড়ি মেরেছিল, ব্যাড ফিল্ম বলছে সমিতি, যাই হোক আমি জানি না ইটস ফ্রম হার পার্সপেক্টিভ, বাট অগ্নিপথ ইজ আওয়ার বাইবেল, রাইট? উই ইউজড টু স্পিক অ্যাবাউট দ্যাট। এনিওয়ে, তো আর বেশি সময় নেব না। ম্যাম ইজ ভেরি ভেরি এক্সাইটেড টু ইনঅগ্রেট দ্য বুক। আর বেশি সময় নেব না, Please do get your copies, as I'm going to get my copy. I only want to end this speech of mine, if you may call it, but it came from my heart. তোমায় হৃদ মাঝারে রাখবো ছেড়ে দিব না, এটা মিস্টার বচ্চনকেও বলছি। তোমায় হৃদয়ে রাখবো ছেড়ে দিব না, ছেড়ে দিলে সোনার গৌরার পাবো না, তাই আমি ছেড়ে দিব না। তোমায় হৃদ মাঝারে হৃদয়ে পরাণে রাখবো ছেড়ে দিব না। Thank you everybody. Good evening.
Now the official book launch. We have few rap points.
This does not seem that good. Yeah, it's a patla like that. Golden packing, golden plastic. So let us scams everywhere. Scams everywhere.
ওখান থেকে নিয়ে আসো দাও না। এটাও ওই বই সেম। হ্যাঁ এটা শুধু মিনিগুলো
You need to keep it in your hand. This is the Kodak moment.
Can you take a picture of this?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
ওই টিসি কপিটা তোমায় দিয়েছে।
উল্টে গেছে এদিকে নিচে দিয়ে
We'll take another 5 minutes. We'd like to hear from you if you have any questions. If you have any questions for any of the panelists here, just a 5 minutes. Yes, please.
So, and I think one of the points you might have wanted to include, which was neglected, was the fact that Amitabh Bachchan, after, when he began his career, it wasn't a given that he would succeed or become a superstar because he had a series of flops. Who created him? It wasn't Bachchan and his acting that created Bachchan. Two guys, Salim and Javed. And it was these people who went and created, with a couple of directors, this model of an angry young man. And this whole history, I was in Bombay then as a journalist, and I was an editor in the 80s. And I put a request with Amitabh to get a cover story. He declined. He said, talk to my father. So I ended up in Gulmohar Park interviewing Harivansh Rai Bachchan for a couple of days. He wouldn't speak about his son. And the entire story was about the poet. So anyway, so we lived at that time, and I tell you one thing, Amitabh Bachchan wasn't furiously popular with a certain segment of Bombay. He was popular with the masses, but there was a very skeptical clientele that thought him to be an actor of not great merit. He was considered, whilst this great new wave was going on, with Cham Benegal and the left-wing filmmakers, who really thought that is the kind of cinema this country deserved. And what we intelligent people did not deserve is this kind of Bollywood, which had been successfully going downhill since the Devanand era. And after Amitabh Bachchan was a complete complete, disappearance. It only existed for money, which Dawood Abraham, funneling in. So things reached a terrible pitch. But to come back to just this little point about who created this man.
It's there in my book already, to answer your question. It's there in every chapter almost. I have done an in-depth study of the people who created Bachchan. For example, while researching the book, I went through a PhD thesis on Manmohan Desai. So I was also shocked that how can somebody do a PhD on Manmohan Desai? I couldn't get the hold of the whole book. I got some extracts and it was brilliant. And the foreword was written by Amitabh Bachchan, who also wrote about Manmohan Desai, saying that how he could bring out, even within the mainstream. The mainstream is not something which we have to throw away, because I believe that where 140 crores of Indians are watching those films. So you cannot just throw them away. I'm not talking about today's films. I'm talking the same thing about Amitabh Bachchan's era, or even that after that Jitendra's era, or Shah Rukh Khan's era. Now things have turned very different. I don't want to comment on that. But I have already said in my book that the angry young man is a social construct, is a cultural construct by 4 or 5 people, including Bachchan. One is Salim, Javed, Manmohan Desai, Kadir Khan, Rishikesh Mukherjee. These are the 5 people, and including Bachchan himself, who have made a social construct. It's not the real Amitabh Bachchan at all. That's a different person altogether. But the actor who we see and we call the angry young man or not the angry young man is not the it's a social construct, it's a cultural construct. It's not a natural outcome of his talent or anything like that. But at the same time, if I am allowed to comment on your statement, the ones who did not like Amitabh Bachchan were the elitists. Alright, not the mainstream people. Mainstream people, whether they were educated or not educated, because the commercial success of the film says so. But today, of course, the parameters are different, because if you see Animal, it's a super hit success, such a terrible film I've never seen in my whole life. I'm very frank about it. But in those days, mainstream films were not to be thrown away. They had something in them, I believe, in order to make them successes. For example, Amitabh Bachchan, after 11 flops, and those 11 flops were really deserving to be flops, even at that time. Alright? Whereas Artha Satya is still a timeless movie. It's off mainstream, it's not a mainstream film. Govind Nihalini's films were at that time off mainstream films. But all his films were excellent. Like you gave the example of Om Puri, somebody here gave the example of Om Puri. So I think that answers your question. If you read the book, you'll get to know. I'm giving the book to you.
Thank you, sir. We'd like to field another question from the audience. Just 1 minute, I'll just take. So sorry about this. Just to add in a bit, the angry young man is an adage that came from a John Osborne classic. It's called Look Back in Anger, and the character called Jimmy Potter. Yes, sir, please.
My name is Avinash Sahai. I happen to be Amitabh Bachchan's schoolmate. So I'm 3 months older than him, 82. And I will tell you the exact background. The lady just mentioned Arvansh Rai Srivastava. Bachchan was the title. And Inkalab ne kaha, Amitabh's mother was a Sardarni, Teji Bachchan. And she went in a procession, freedom movement. Inkalab, wahan se naam pada. He was born on 11th October 42 and was born on 21st May 42. And I'll give you an example. He studied in boys' high school for 11 years. His father, after getting his PhD from Cambridge, did not get a job in the Allahabad University. So he was transferred to the Information Broadcasting Ministry in Delhi. And that's how he shifted there. He's not connected with the Gandhi family at all at that time. His father used to pay 25 rupees for 3 rooms on Convent Road. My father used to pay 55 rupees for the same house. I once asked him, बच्चे थे स्कूल में जाते थे, and we used to see movies of Devanand, Raj Kapoor, Dilip Kumar. Now you're acting with them, how do you feel? He said, शुरू में तो वो लगता था you're part of the community. He said, when I was going out with there, they said he's flirting with us. When I got married to her, he said, उसको acting नहीं करने देंगे. He said, I go my first shift at 6 o'clock in the morning and I come after the second shift at 10 o'clock. So the children are still asleep. I said, after some time they'll ask their mother who their father is, who put my picture, they jayenge wahan dikha do. Now he was a science student, a BSc student, and he was very poor in studies. And we were paid, given 50 marks for posture, so we had to sit straight in a chair. We couldn't crouch. That was taught to us in school. But what is very important and what you've written in your book is not this struggle. You know, unless you have failure, you can't go up in life. And at your age, you get dementia, cognitive decline. We still recognize everything. I can recite the daffodil poem which I learned in class 4. So I remember I'm completely I'm an engineer by profession. But more important is, what he could not do is not important. What he did, and forget the angry man or whatever it is, it's what you succeed in. What is very concerning today is the advertising for products which they should not do. He has a younger brother, Amitabh Bachchan. He has a lot of medical problem after the two accident. He's completely bald. He does but great personality. Keep his mind young. And this is the age where you spread kindness. You don't carry anything with you. So I think it's very important. And today, the audience being less is because of an English play outside. Otherwise, they wouldn't.
Importance of being honest is being performed. And I guess being a Bengal club production, most of the members have gone rightly.
In fact, today, only in Bengal you read books. Other places you don't read books also. They say the heart is disposed unless you remove the crap from your mind and won't absorb it. This is one place where people still do. And you've done a fabulous job. Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I guess with that we can call it an evening. We had some clips that I thought we were supposed to screen earlier.
Yeah. No, I have some clips of the posters, but we can eliminate. It's too late, it's 9 o'clock.
Not yet, 9. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being present here. Do grab your copy. There are books that are being sold here. Thank you.
Shomadi, thank you so much. Maybe from Bengal Shemati madam. আর একটা কি আছে
না না ওইটাই
ওর বই দেখে আমি চেঞ্জ